Hey guys, welcome to the Centre Bounce. Today we are talking about the preseason game between the Blues and the Pies. Stay tuned. Big J, there is no love lost between these guys. They absolutely hate each other. Even in the preseason, they're always punching up. I love it.
Oh man, it's a bit like Collingwood and Essendon fans. I don't know where the hate comes from. I think being a North Melbourne fan, I'm just used to everyone hating on you and thinking you're a crappy team. So you don't feel it as much, but boy, oh boy, not many people like Collingwood, it seems.
I find no one hates North Melbourne. They've been so irrelevant for so long that no one has any negative feelings for you guys. But Essendon, big club, and we always talk about, our premierships and stuff. But then, of course, you also have those fan pages where it's like, over 6,000 days, whatever, 600 million days, 6 billion days. Like, guys, get over it. All right, we understand. But we're not talking about Essendon here. We're talking about Collingwood and Carlton. These two guys really love to turn it on, and they love putting on a great show for us. But I think the biggest show out of this game was the Carlton midfield. It's still very strong, huh?
Yeah, it was really a story of a team who made finals last year versus a team that didn't. And then a bit of a role reversal because Carlton came out and won. It was 12-12-84 to 11-8-74. So it wasn't even like Collingwood came out and really didn't kicked more behinds and goals, had more scoring shots, that kind of thing. They just really struggled. As you say, the Carlton midfield, their team looks much better. I think it's more, it was last year a case of we have to make the team gel. They probably shouldn't have lost their chance to play finals, but they did because, they lost the lead a lot, quite a few times throughout the year. But when they fire and they work, oh boy. And
that midfield has only gotten better. Yeah,
yep.
and their midfield has only gotten better with the acquisition of Blake Acres, who I'm not sure if many people realize just how great of an acquisition that was going to be, just how shrewd it was. But I definitely think that he is one that looms as probably one of the most important moves in this offseason in total, out of all of the moves, because he cost Carlton very little to come across. And he is probably going to fill one of their biggest holes. He played all four of those first four quarters in that match sim against Collingwood, and he just patrolled the wing. He's got that aerobic capacity. He covered the territory, and he would drop back into defense and help rebound by pushing forward. He was sensational. He really was, and I think he kicked the goal as well before halftime, just to really put the stamp on this guy being one of the huge acquisitions.
Yeah, it's an interesting time as well because at what point do you start saying to yourself, okay, Freo is going to actually get hurt by losing all these really good fringe-type players? They did get something back for him, but, Griffin Lowe, Tucker's gone, and now Akers. Akers did really well in in the second half of the season, and they basically paid up nothing for him. So, as you say, he's coming into form, really dominated this game, did quite well, and it's lights out. Carlton needs someone on the wing. They've been desperate for it, and he really offers that for them.
Yeah, because you look at the guys that they had playing on the wing for them before. They had Jack Nunes, you got Lockie O'Brien, you got Will Setterfield. I think all three of these guys would be considered below average wingers. You know what I mean? Nunes got delisted, and Setterfield is over at Essendon now, where he's hopefully going to play his genuine position, which is an inside mid. So you look at their wing, it's always been a need for them. And now they've picked up probably one of the best up-and-coming wingers in the competition. And he is really exciting to watch. And he just complemented their midfield mix so well. Cripps and Hewitt, these two guys, man, they are so strong. And they've got ruckmen now who are actually healthy. They're not going to be relying on Cripps playing ruck at any point in time. They are looking really dangerous in that midfield. And I thought Tom Mitchell was going to be able to provide a bit more for Collingwood, but in the face of this midfield mix, he alone just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's really a case of now they're beating themselves to make finals. If they can't get their mentality worked out right, then they're not in. But their team's so good that they have to. I agree with you. I would have loved for a McStay, I love for a Tom Mitchell to come in and dominate, especially with how influential and how much hype they'd had with their preseason reports. If you had a look at a lot of those, it was very much, oh, Tom Mitchell's training the house down. He's reinvented their midfield, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, it kind of just didn't work.
Yeah, he was really quiet. And it just seemed like the way Collingwood moved the ball, that was always probably one of the big considerations that you really had to keep in mind when you're picking a guy like Tom Mitchell, is because the way Collingwood move, the way they play, it's very different to how Hawthorn play. And it's going to be very hard to see a guy like Mitchell accumulate the ball like he has historically. And we've seen from his scoring, he really needs a lot of the pill to score well. And then you back up after this game, Pendlebury, you know, his comments, this is going to be a different Tom Mitchell. It's not the Tom Mitchell that gets 40 disposals. It's a different version of Tom Mitchell. That version of Tom Mitchell historically has not scored well in Supercoach.
No. And that was one of the big questions with moving him into that Collingwood team, and questions for us in Supercoach was, hey, what's going to happen with his scoring? Is he going to be the guy that can break that 100 average, which has really hurt a lot of Collingwood owned people? Is they can't break 100 average. They're not good for Supercoach. And midfielders not scoring 100 is just poo, man.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're paying $500K for him. If you're paying $500K, you're hoping that they're going to be a keeper, and you want them to, you know, fill and actually be a genuine spot on the field. The requirements for an M8 are always getting higher and higher in Supercoach every year upon year. And if you're going to be having a guy at M8 who's barely averaging 100, you're really going to be falling behind the pack. You're going to have to trade him out. And he wouldn't have made as much money as you were hoping that he probably would be making if he was scoring better. So definitely one that you really got to keep an eye on. I thought he was a lock personally before this game, but after this game, I'm not the only one. You look at Abs. You know, he had to get the guys to fish out the shark, to get the key out from the shark. Definitely one that you're really going to have to keep a close eye on, especially with this week's practice game.
Yeah, definitely. Dan McStay was another one as well. We thought, hey, the ruck situation, he might free up Darcy Cameron to do some more things, but it really feels like, I don't know if this is going to end up being a bust pick for Collingwood, Joe.
Oh, some people are really bullish on him, but some people, I think, what's his face? Buckley was really happy with what he saw from McStay. I don't know how much of that is Collingwood bias. Perhaps he loves his boys still too much. Obviously, player, coach of the group. But yeah, I don't know. I think he probably could have given more, especially if he's going to be, and it's probably because his role is very limited. He doesn't seem to be leaving 20 to 30 meters out. He's just going to be one of those stay really close to home sort of players, take the mark, kick goals from 20 to 30 meters. It's not a bad gig for him, especially if he's getting paid big bucks to basically not move too far away from the goal. Look, if I was him, I'm probably living life, to be honest. But if you're a Collingwood fan, you'd probably be hoping that you're going to get more out of him. I think we're getting more out of Cox, to be honest, at this point, with all the ruck work that he's doing.
No, that's what I was about to say, is that the story out of this game was really the rucks. And obviously on both sides, what happens with Pitnet and TDK, but more so Darcy Cameron for Supercoach. Does he become the number one? What's going to happen with the midfield mix? What's going to happen with Cox? Because Cox can't really play anywhere else, like we've talked about in videos before. And we were shown in this game, Cox is the number one, Darcy Cameron's the number two, and no one's playing Darcy Cameron in their teams this year. If you do, you haven't watched preseason, you haven't watched our content, because he's a big no-no right now.
Yeah, exactly. It really was clear that they had that they really valued Cox in the ruck, and they were going to persist with him in the ruck. And that is something that we have been saying and talking about all preseason, that if you're going to go and select a guy like Darcy Cameron to be a keeper for you, to be a primo for you, you're really going to have to look and see what his interaction is with Mason Cox. Because if he is sharing the ruck with Mason Cox, or there are games where Mason Cox is the primary ruckman, then unfortunately, the price that you're paying for Cameron at 465 is too much because he's not gonna have that output. If he was to be primary ruck, then that 465 is a great price to pay. But unfortunately, from what we've seen so far, that's not the case. You really have to closely watch what happens in this next game and see if that continues. If it does, if what we saw against Carlton happens again this week, then you think you got to firmly put a cross through him. Yeah,
it's a big no-no. I think there's better options. You might as well just play a rookie and save yourself some money, to be honest.
Okay. I guess we can talk about... Yeah.
Do you want to talk about our midfield mix?
Yes. Massive thank you to Matt Forrest. Once again, we always love to shout out the work that you do. We really appreciate it. These stats would not be around if not for you. So thank you for doing the Lord's work. You absolute legend. If you're on Twitter, go and follow Matt Forrest. You can see his Twitter handles there at MattForrest29. We can see that the midfield mix for the Blues is quite standard in relation to they understand that that's their strength. They got the guns in there, and they're going to stick with their guns. Cripper, 84%. Hewitt, 70. Kennedy, 60. These are the three main guys. And probably the one that there was a lot of preseason reports about getting more midfield minutes is Sam Doherty. He had 36%. Yeah. Do you think, is that as much as you sort of thought that he was going to get?
I actually thought he might play a little bit more. But I guess with Williams being out, they're trying to mitigate that a little bit, playing guys like Cincotta and Cowan, trying to work out what the mix for those two people are in the back line. But even at 36%, he might get DPP, which would be fantastic for owners. But boy, oh boy, you're almost considering starting him. If he can pump out his 120s like he did at the end of last year with majority mid-time, I mean, it's not majority now, but he's getting close. You don't want to miss out on it.
No. So you definitely have to keep a close eye on Carlton's next preseason game and see again where he's going to play, how many CBA he's going to get, because he is definitely a very relevant option. You can have both him and Saad, especially if this 36% is going to be higher in the next one. They might be slowly easing him in to see with the midfield rotation. So definitely keep an eye on that. For Collingwood,
I guess just the buy round is probably the big consideration.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want too many for the long buy.
Yeah. So Collingwood, you look at DeGoey, he had 64%. This is a number that I actually personally did not expect to see so high, right?
Yeah, they've slowly started to move him into that power midfield role. And I think, obviously, we've seen that in the game this week. Him and Stringer, we've talked about. Who else we talk about in some of the other episodes? These players who, even Cozzy Pickett, for example, these guys who were forwards moving into the midfield, being kind of these powerful forwards who can run and kick the ball. You would think that Tom Mitchell coming in would kind of take a lot of that midfield time, but it really feels like maybe they're doing a bit of a Sydney, like we spoke about in the other episode. They're just trying people around to see what fits. With Dacos playing majority mid-time like we see there, I think it leaves a few question marks, and maybe Collingwood's just trying to experiment a bit in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a guy like Lipinski only getting 16% is also pretty little, considering the reason why they brought him across from the Bulldogs. So I'm definitely siding with you in that the way Collingwood came into this and the way they structured their CBA, their midfielders, I think is a bit of experimentation, a bit of waiting and seeing. Carlton simply refining what they know works and what their biggest strengths are. They played a fairly strong side and they're playing at home. Collingwood, on the other hand, look to be experimenting a bit with their midfield mix, which is why you got to keep a close eye. That's why we haven't fully ruled out Tom Mitchell. We just simply said that he's not as strong a lock as we thought that he was initially, but we are not ruling him out. You got to keep a close eye on him. Okay, guys? We're just clarifying that.
Yeah,
and obviously Elliott 16%, Dacos 16% there. So you can see that it almost looks like they also maybe perhaps are trying to copy what Geelong did, and what Geelong showed is a really winning formula in terms of having a lot more people run through the middle. Obviously, time will tell whether or not they sort of have these many number of people attending CBAs. So again, guys, Collingwood are a team that you've got to really watch closely.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are kind of playing around with that. Melbourne are doing it now. We spoke about Petrarca coming a lot more forward. Heck, even North Melbourne are trying to copy the premiership teams that are doing it. So I think the days of a pure midfielder person and then a pure forward person are slowly dwindling away. A lot of these teams are getting a lot more dynamic players, and obviously this game's showing that for us today.
Exactly. So I guess we can also scroll down just a bit because Matt also did the amazing thing of showing us some full-time kick-in stats as well. And we did mention this player just before when we were talking about Doherty. Here we had Sard with Doherty playing more midfield minutes. You end up Sard having now all of a sudden the lion's share of the kick-ins with 58% of them, and he's played on 3 of the 4 times that he had the ball. So you got a guy like Sard, and if you look at his stats in the historically, without Williams in the team, this guy averages 110.
Yeah, and he's only priced at like a 9. What is he? 530. So that's under 100 average. So yeah, he does give you some value there. Does he take majority of the backline work now that Doherty's coming in? I think it's more of a wait and see for next week's game. To really kind of cement that, but I can definitely see a few people bringing Sard in. Similar with Newman, I think kind of maybe not taking spots away from someone else, but kind of giving that sense of feeling Doherty's not going to play in the back line anymore. He's not going to have the same role. They penciled him for a midfield role. Having established mature age players in the midfield is a huge thing for a lot of teams because they can become that midfield gun, like we spoke about in our Doherty video. Yeah, just kind of teams being able to be really fluid is important. On the Collingwood side, we saw Howe take 36%, and then a big share across the back line. So Maynard, Moore, and Dacos, guys who were really there last year doing that job. So maybe the Dacos move to the midfield isn't as much, or he's going to be moved around so much that he gets the best of both worlds, CBAs and then kickouts, which is crazy for if you don't have him and he's doing both next week. Boy, you better look a way to put him into your team.
That's why I'm really bullish on this guy. Love Nick Dacos. I think this guy, the way he demands the ball, and Collingwood love to have the ball in his hands. He's such a clean user of the football. He runs all day. He always tries to present. It's going to be very hard to tag him because of his aerobic capacity, which has only improved over this offseason. He smashed the time trials, and he easily won against all his Collingwood teammates, and this guy is going to be playing both CBAs and going to the back line taking kick-ins. This guy, bro, for 500k,
500k, guys, seriously, and we're desperate for backline value. Like, why is he not closer to 100%? I don't understand.
Yeah, I agree, Big J. It is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. You guys have to get Dacos up. Get Dacos' ownership up higher. He has to. But again, thank you so much, Matt, for those stats.
Excuse me.
And that brings our discussions of the Blues versus Pies preseason practice game to a close. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw and you like our content, please don't hesitate to like, share, subscribe. You don't really have to share if you don't want to. It's a bit of a pain. But liking and subscribing definitely would be much appreciated. We're pumping out the content all for you guys. It's getting really exciting. More practice games to come starting on Thursday. It's getting really good, Big J. We're getting close to the start, man.
Oh, man. Round 1's coming quicker and quicker every day. The countdown timer's ticking down, and we're here along with the journey with you guys. So, yeah, stay tuned for more content. We've got our Supercoach group coming out as well, so you guys can win some amazing prizes. Any final words, Joe?
Yeah, just one. Here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work so that you don't have to. Bye for now.